Joining us now for our weekly partnership segment with the Daily Poster, we have David Sirota. He is, of course, founder of the Daily Poster. Great to see you, David.
Good to see you, David.
Good to see you both.
So you guys did some deep reporting on some of the ways that the Supreme Court's pro-corporate ideology is shaped. And this is happening on, among the right-wing members of the court, but not exclusively the right-wing members of the court. We've seen the Supreme Court over years, including quote-unquote liberal justices like Justice Breyer, take a lot of decisions that are very favorable to corporate America. Let's go ahead and put the piece up there on the screen from Walker Bragman. He says how pro-business law and economics interests pushed the courts right as justices consider crushing the EPA. Data shows a link between judges' all-expense-paid free market trainings and right-wing business rulings. So talk to us about what exactly is going on here, David.
So there's a movement called the Law and Economics Movement, and it's a right-wing conservative movement that was designed to have court rulings that apply supposedly economic principles to how judges interpret the law. And not surprisingly, that is a way to ideologically shift the court's rulings to the right. What new data tell us is that there is a link between the judges all throughout the judiciary system, judges taking these all expenses paid luxury trips to law and economics conferences, and those judges systematically producing more right-wing rulings on specifically cases involving labor, the environment, and antitrust. So, in other words, you have a movement funded by corporate interests that is bankrolling luxury trips for judges to effectively indoctrinate a generation of judges to apply essentially conservative economic ideology to how they interpret the law. And this is all specifically relevant right now because the Supreme Court, of which there are law and economics adherents on that court is right now considering the kind of case that's at issue here, the case that would effectively defang the EPA and prevent it from reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the United States.
Yeah, I think, it's funny, because of my background, I've been aware of this for a long time. And it's funny, I've always seen there's a lot of liberal obsession over the culture war issues, and I'm like, you guys don't even know what's happening on the economic side. I've always said the Federalist Society and more, they care more about defanging administrative law than they do by social conservatism by far. So just explain what that means, not only in the EPA practice, but in general, antitrust, so much more that nobody ever focuses on.
Sure. So look, the Supreme Court and the judiciary as a whole is mostly dealing with business cases, economic cases. And those cases do not get nearly the attention that cultural issues, social issues get at the court. But as you suggest, the conservative movement has been focused on moving the court specifically farther and farther, I guess you'd call it to the right, but really pro-corporate direction, to essentially get more and more rulings that serve corporate interests. A good example is the whole part of the court rulings that try to take power away from federal agencies to essentially do their job, whether it's antitrust regulation and the like. Another area that we see is attempting to close the courthouse door to plaintiffs seeking redress against corporations. That's another big thing in the judiciary right now. And again, what the new data shows, not surprisingly in some ways, is a direct correlation between judges being given these luxury junkets to go essentially be indoctrinated into this ideology, and those judges producing those kinds of rulings which serve corporate interests. And again, I go back to this EPA case. I can't stress enough how important this case is. This is a case where this is at issue, where the power of the EPA to do its job regulating greenhouse gas emissions is fundamentally at issue. You have West Virginia leading a case to try to essentially prevent the EPA from having that power during the climate crisis. And you have the plaintiffs making a kind of law and economics argument. Oh, if the EPA can regulate greenhouse gases, wouldn't that cost society too much? And ultimately then the question becomes, well, why are the judges deciding what costs too much or what doesn't cost enough. Why is that something that's at issue? Aren't the judges supposed to be ruling on matters of law, on matters of what is the EPA under the law empowered to do? But that's that law and economics ideology embedded in the judiciary system now.
And who are some of the top acolytes of this approach who are currently on the Supreme Court? And do we know anything about how Biden's nominee, Ketanji Brown Jackson, feels about this whole movement?
Well, look, Clarence Thomas has been kind of an acolyte of law and economics. I think he went to a couple of these conferences. You've got, Sam Alito. I'm not sure he's gone to those conferences, but it's the same sort of thing. I mean, basically, the right-wing judges on the court have promoted this ideology. And by the way, John Roberts, he is known as a kind of so-called moderate. He has been at the forefront of trying to shut plaintiffs out of the court system, denying them standing, as it's called. And I should mention, Justice Breyer has a pretty conservative record, especially when it comes to antitrust. So you were right at the beginning here to mention that this isn't necessarily Democratic or Republican. It's not even necessarily liberal, quote unquote, or conservative. This is sort of across the spectrum of how we identify judges. We don't know very much when it comes to this kind of stuff with Biden's new nominee, but my guess is some of it will come out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
And this is how, over time, you end up with this landscape that is just so unfavorable to working people and where corporations hold so much power and sway. David, thank you, as always, for helping us understand those mechanics that are operating behind the scenes.
Thanks, David.
Thank you both.
Our pleasure. And thank you guys for watching. Go subscribe to the Daily Poster. Thank you for subscribing to us, and we're going to have more for you later. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.